Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Explore AI Summit. And we hope you are excited to power up your prompting. So we do have a link on screen that you can use to get your own copy of these slides. And as we start to move through, I am going to throw that up on the bottom of the screen as well, just to make sure that you've got it. So I am sure that you are wondering who we are. So we'll do some quick introductions. My name is Sarah. I work with Logix on a number of different projects, and I am going to be keeping an eye on the chat, giving you some good links, and making sure that all of your questions get to Danny today. And Danny, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am coming to you today from Castlegar, BC. It's still very dark out, but I'm excited to be up working with people from across the country. I am a teacher, librarian, technology integration specialist. I do a little bit of teacher ed stuff on the side, and then I've worked with Logix for about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that at this point, doing a whole bunch of different work with real educators across the country like yourselves, and very excited to share some stuff with how to level up your prompting today. And I think you can follow us both. I think we both have Blue Sky links now.
Mm-hmm. I am on at SJ Elliott.
And I'm D-leaming to, I think. It's a recent transition, so I'm unclear at that point.
And we do want to take a moment to acknowledge and pay respect to the fact that even though we are meeting in a virtual space today, we are all meeting from physical places. So I would like to invite everyone to reflect on the lens where you are. And I would like to acknowledge and pay respect to the fact that I'm presenting today from the ancestral lands of the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, which includes the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, on whose treaty lands I am so fortunate to be able to live and work. And we encourage you to take a look at the logixacademy.com website. There are so many events that go on throughout the year, summits like this one, and tons of other professional development opportunities and opportunities for your students as well. Also, we are on socials at Logix Academy, and you can share any of the amazing work that you're doing with us there. Huge thank you to all of our training partners who we work with and are able to do tons of professional development with, which includes Microsoft, Apple, Google, and of course, Minecraft.
That's your main jam, right? Loving the
Yeah.
Minecraft.
If you do any of the Minecraft sessions, you'll probably see me at some point. And there are tons of other things that Logix offers that a lot of people aren't aware of. So a lot of incredible technology solutions for learning with STEM, all the way from early elementary up to post-secondary and makerspace. You can learn about those at logixacademy.com/products. And we encourage you to check out all of the live events that we're doing. That's at logixacademy.com/live events. So any kind of summits like this one, any of the professional development or co-taught lessons we do with your students, those will all be there if you want to find something that works for you and learn more about it.
Lots of great sessions for the hour of code, it looks like. The Minecraft stuff is always tremendous. The Python session looks really interesting. Should be a very good event.
And huge thank you to Microsoft for their generous support of this workshop series as part of their commitment to fostering a broader understanding of AI. So there are a lot of Microsoft tools that are being explored in this summit series, but a lot of non-Microsoft tools as well. And huge thanks to them for allowing us to bring all of this amazing professional development today.
Shout out Microsoft. Let's go.
All right, Danny, I am going to turn it over to you. Take it away.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to spend the next hour-ish with you folks talking about how we get our prompts moving up the food chain a little bit to try and make a variety of AI tools a a little bit more powerful and a little bit more useful. So for the context of this workshop, I think everything that I'm going to talk about should apply to whatever your tool of choice is, whether it's the regular ChatGPT, it's Microsoft Copilot, you're working in Gemini, whatever it happens to be. I think the tips and ideas are actually going to allow you to work with whatever tool you're using a little bit more. Though most of my examples in the slideshow are GPT or Copilot. That is, we're not married to this for all this learning, so it's going to translate itself to different places. So our hope and our dream is that we're going to look at some pedagogical opportunity in AI education space. We're going to go left to go right, if that makes sense. We're going to talk about how we work with our students a little bit first before we get into how ourselves as staff are going to take it to the next level. Because I think the student question feeds the design question for what we do as educators. And then looking at some sort of big picture sort of showcase examples of what a really complex prompt back and forth looks like with one of these tools, and trying to move away from the one-off prompting that exists, that is the most common use that I see in my day-to-day, is kids trying to get the worksheet answer or having the thinking compartmentalized into the AI. That's what we would like to avoid, so that we're working a little better. So I always put this slide in all my AI sessions. So start your life. Oh, we have a visitor.
That's Toby.
Hi, Toby. Does Toby have any questions?
I'm sure he's very curious. Anytime he hears a meeting going on, he has to come and be part of it.
My wife is up in the other room keeping our cats occupied so that they're not disturbing. So with all AI tools, I think the way to approach this, and I think this is really important no matter what tool you're using, is how do you minimize the input of student or real data or personalized data into the system as a best practice step. As little disclosure as possible from go, and that will protect student data in the big picture. And then also checking in with your IT department to be like, what are the tools that we're okay with? I know for Copilot, for example, Microsoft has that little protected badge that shows up when you're logged in with your education accounts that says that that data is never hitting any of the machine learning and whatnot that goes on. So I think that's really important to keep in mind as we use any of these tools. We have a question in the chat about Gemini is 18, is it now? I think you can have it turned on in your tenant, ? I believe I have access to it in mine. But Gemini in general, I think you'd have to check with your IT team as to whether or not the student sections of your tenant would have it on. It was 18 at one point, and GPT was also 18 at one point as well, but I think they've reduced that, if I remember correctly. Could you check that for me, Sarah, while
I will see what I can find.
So if you are sitting in the chat with us right now, I'm going to come back to this. So I would love for you, if you're watching it, or if you're one of the people that's going to be watching the video on demand afterwards, maybe scribble down what is something that you would love to work on next week at work, and what would the basic prompt be? What would you type in as first go? So if you're with us live, you can drop that in the chat. And if you're watching at home, you can just scribble it down, and then we're going to come back to that prompt in a little bit. So I'll let you think on that, drop them into the chat as you come up with them, and then we'll keep going.
And it looks like Robert found the answer for us. Google is rolling out 13 plus for Gemini.
Yeah, that makes sense. These things are so fast. They change so fast. It's hard to keep up on the little minutia. But that is an important consideration. Okay. Steve Jobs once said, computers are like a bicycle for our minds. And then somebody made this quote fancy picture that looks very sharp and very beautiful. And what he was meaning by that is that computers are speeding up the journey, right? They're helping us get from A to B a little bit faster. I see AI in a similar way. Here's me being cheeky. AI is like a race car for our process. Me just now. I'm pretty funny, right? So AI is the same idea. It's in speeding up the journey from A to B, but it's doing it at a absolutely astronomical rate. But what that doesn't say is the car is not choosing where it's going. We have to help design where the car is going. We are putting the thinking into the processing power. And I think the problem that I see most often is people are assuming it can do the thinking. I don't really think it can do the thinking. We have to put the thinking into it to get the results that we want, and then leverage its power to process and work with language to accelerate us to a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or your supercar of choice. Or as our friend Cami says, another Logix consultant, prompting and pasting is pathetic. So I think anytime that you're typing in, hey, give me a lesson plan for Tuesday, I want to do a lesson plan on vaping for my Health 10 class, and you put that in and you just take that result and run with it, you're going to run into a lot of problems. The AI tools are very, very flawed in a lot of ways. Flawed and extremely confident is how I would describe them. And anytime that you're working with it, it should be to prompt, output, iterate, and work that cycle until you get something really, really strong. And we'll talk about some tips to do that. But I love this slide from Cami. I took it right out of one of her slideshows because I love that quote. Prompting and pasting is pathetic. It is an amplifier, not a replacer. And I think the places that you're going to be able to use it in school are going to be cross-curricular across every type of class, but it's going to be very discrete and important chosen moments in which those tools can come in really handy. You are going to run into problems if you're giving a worksheet and sending home a content-based worksheet to students for homework. Yes, you're going to get a lot of AI responses back for those things because it's simple back and forths. We need to help our students understand how and why it can be leveraged to accelerate their own process and allow us to accelerate our process as well. And so those design questions are why we're going to go a little bit left to talk about kids before we come back and talk about us as educational leaders in the classroom. So I love this video. I've got a couple videos here that make me laugh. Everybody's probably seen this video of the Waymos returning to base to charge at night in San Francisco. So this is somebody filming from their apartment building. The Waymos, the AI-driven cars, they just are sitting in the parking lot, honking and backing up and honking and backing up and honking and backing up endlessly all night long because they can't figure themselves out in the parking lot. And everybody that lives in those buildings is sad. This is AI without the driver. I downloaded these from TikTok. This is my favorite video ever. It's also the most infuriating video ever. This also went viral a little while ago, and hopefully the sound works on this.
All right, so I asked ChatGPT, how many R's are in strawberry? It said there are 2 R's in strawberry. I counted 3. I can see why you might think that, but strawberry actually has 2 R's. Maybe you are counting the letter R in straw and berry separately. Break it down and show me. Sure, here's the breakdown. Strawberry. The R's are highlighted. There are 2 R's in strawberry. I said I can physically see 3 R's. I understand there might be some confusion if you count the letter R in strawberry. 1. Strawberry. There are indeed only 2 R's. If you are seeing 3, there might be a mistake or a different context in your counting. Am I crazy? You're not crazy. Sometimes mistakes happen when counting or reading. It's easy to miscount letters, especially if you're looking at the word quickly. If you're still unsure, you might want to check again and use a different method to verify. Spell it for me, then, and count the R's as you do it. Certainly. Here's the spelling of strawberry with the R's counted.
It goes on like that for several more minutes. Just being gaslit by an AI robot. And you can see on the right, I actually replicated this in GPT-3. And you can see I slightly worded the question differently. There are 3 R's in the word strawberry. Got it right. And then I changed it to how many R's in strawberry. And then it started to give me the false information as well. So if you're letting your thinking be output to this tool, you may believe there are 2 R's in the word strawberry.
All right. So I asked ChatGPT.
That video, by the end of that video, it's just like, it's 5 minutes and 37 seconds long. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's just like, oh my Lord. This is a paper that came out on November 6th. I think this speaks to sort of the topic at hand here. It is not an education paper, but it's about science research and who is getting the most out of these tools. And I've highlighted a few parts there from the abstract that are, I think, really important and relevant. And I would not be shocked to find that this is exactly how it works in education as well. So the people who have a ton of knowledge and a ton of expertise in their fields, the AI helps them do their process way faster. But if you are not super knowledgeable and not super comfortable with the content at hand, it actually slows you down because you end up having to you have to test all the false positives and sort through the bad ideas it generates, whereas someone with the expertise is going to recognize the bad or worse ideas and be able to iterate on the ones that it generates that are quality. And it makes, when you're outputting sort of mediocre results, you're going to have less satisfaction in what you're doing. And I would love to see a comparative study to teaching in this, because I think it's probably going to be exactly the same. The pedagogical experts that lead in their areas are going to be able to use this to really quickly, as a collaborative thinking partner, because they have the expertise to quickly find the mistakes and ignore them or move on past them. And the people that are just starting out are not going to know how to sort that information out. And it's going to be tougher for them to find satisfaction and to learn if it's just regurgitating out to them some ideas. So in our schools, like, we got to work with our students, and this is now we're going to sort of talk about how to work with the kids on this. Kids need to understand that there's going to be multiple ways to assess them. I mentioned, like, I'm going to use ChatGPT and Copilot kind of interchangeably in just my vernacular here, but these tools are going to force us into a mode where we have to assess a whole bunch of different pieces of what learning looks like. And as kids get used to that, it'll de-emphasize the way that just regurgitating information from one of these tools is going to be helpful to them academically, and that hopefully will show them that their learning can be assessed in multiple different modes. So I think, how do we plan and deal with this? I think flipped classroom is a model that was around for years and years. About 10 years ago, it was very, very popular to hear flipped classroom stuff at PD. I'm sure Sarah has heard that term come and go. I think it was like it came and then it went away a little bit as technology wasn't really there to facilitate it. I think one thing the pandemic did is allow us to get into a mode where we're more capable as a profession of creating the learning materials for flipped classroom. And AI is going to allow flipped classroom experiences to happen so that you're designing things so that kids are coming in to do some hands-on learning, and the AI can be used not as a cheat, but as a support through that process. So I think flipped classroom conversation is going to come back a whole bunch.
The flipped classroom.
There's a little instructional video there. And we also have to talk about, how do we assess and design assessment for student experience? So, what are we assessing and how are we assessing it? So are we doing, lane one? And this is a paper that talks about 2 lanes of assessment in an AI world. So real-time skill checks, that would be your tests, quizzes, things like that. No AI there. Conversations, on-campus testing, simulations. And then lane 2 would be where you can build an AI example. So AI insert research, collaborative writing evolution, AI aided artifacts, those situations where the AI is providing examples and providing coaching as opposed to answers help students sort of start to see that difference. There's a little bit more there about that that you can read if you keep the slide deck. I don't want to just read the slide to you, but there's some interesting stuff developing there. And that 2-lane approach is the way I sort of think about lesson design now. And then this model I really like. It's a Creative Commons tool that you can use in your classroom, really helping and showing students like, what is this assignment? And it's something that you can take in to your classroom and put this up on the wall and then be like, okay, this assignment is a number 4. We're doing a number 4 type of task right now. Whereas you're doing a sort of some content acquisition. Here's a number 1. You shouldn't be using this because, and talk about it with the kids. Like, AI would be detrimental to your learning on this number 1 type of assignment because you're trying to acquire some basic level knowledge. And if the AI is just handing it to you, you're not really learning anything. Whereas at a number 4, you could be doing quite an aggressive AI coaching type of assignment that is really open-ended, where there's no clear answer to get. And the student's using it as a search engine, essentially, instead of a thinking partner or a thinker. So how does this look for kids? So a simple example would be using a tool like Perplexity. So perplexity.ai, if you've never seen it before, you can go to Perplexity, and it's essentially a new type of search engine that can pull together answers. And it's really great because it links out the specific articles and websites that give it the information. So if a student is starting a research paper, and my brain's going to default to social studies because that's my background, but let's say they're starting a social studies paper on World War II, or the example I have in my screenshot there. What is the current scientific debate over whether cell phones cause mental health issues in teens? Pretty hot topic this year in schools. The students can then find and create sort of a list of articles that they find are really helpful based on the points and the summaries that the AI provides. And that's going to be a home task. That's going to allow them to work with that tool, accelerate their process, to then come in and do some really interesting hands-on learning around lateral reading. So you have them use Perplexity to gather some sources, and then you come in and you do sort of an in-class debate or a comparative study and do some lateral reading to confirm and verify their sources. FYI, Civic Online Reasoning, I believe Microsoft is a big supporter of that group. So they're helping build some of those lesson plans, which are all free. There's a link in my slides to that website. I'm going to share this tab instead. So there's all these great resources on here to do that. And then that's going to leverage the AI tool to help those students find really high quality sources, find and understand those sources, and then jump out the next day in class to really get their hands dirty working with them and comparing what their peers found and asking questions about the information they found, how they got it, what it's talking about, is there bias there, all those things, and teaching really strong digital literacy as well as the research skills. I show this screenshot often. I take no credit for this idea. This is from one of my favorite students of all time. When I was starting to play with AI tools a while ago, I reached out to her and said, hey, how are you using this at university? Because you're a good kid. Like, you're not cheating. How are you using it? So a way that a student could use it that you could coach is, like, through the course of a semester, Copilot can take in images. So this is a bit of an outdated example, but let's say you're using Copilot and you have a bunch of sort of like Microsoft Office Lens scans of your notebook that you've handwritten notes, or you've got some typed notes that you've done, or some content from a PowerPoint. What she was doing is she was taking her Microsoft Word notes from her Word doc. She was putting them into ChatGPT, and then she's like, hey, my exam's coming up. My notes, I think we all were there at one point in university where our notebooks were just an utter disaster of like fast scrawled nonsense. And so she's dumping in her notes and being like, hey, can you like clean this up for me and synthesize it for me and like organize it so it makes a lot more sense? as a way to like accelerate her study process. Like it's not doing any thinking for her. It's just saying, hey, you've written this down twice. You don't need to read it twice. Let's get rid of the second one. Let's collate them into some sort of major topic headings. And then the nudge I gave her was, hey, now that you've got this incredible study guide for your course, why don't you ask it to generate some possible essay questions to help you study? So she did. She said, could you generate some possible essay questions for my teacher to devise based on this information? This will help me study and prepare. Out came the essay questions. And then you can see the screenshot in the bottom there that she emailed back when she did her exam the next day. She's like, they were actually so close. She said to me, actually, I wonder if he used ChatGPT to generate our exam questions for the course.
Wow.
And so for students, like, I don't see that as cheating, but that's a coached way that they're like, hey, let's clean this up and help, get rid of some of the mishmash that happened in your note-taking and your process, and then sort of streamline what's happening in your school. The other thing that she did that she said a lot of her and her peers were doing was they were putting the rubric for a term paper time, put the rubric in, and then using AI as like a feedback machine. So they're not writing the paper. She's never using it to generate any content within the paper. She's putting the rubric in and then putting her paper in and then saying, okay, grade me. Where am I at? And then this is the brilliant part here. If I only had, this is the prompt, I think was something like, if I only have one more hour to edit this essay, how would you spend that hour editing this essay to ensure the highest level of achievement based on the rubric that I provided? And so it gives her like, hey, argument, spend 30 minutes working on your argument, spend 15 minutes working on your evidence, and then spend 10 minutes doing a read over for grammar and spelling, and then 5 minutes, just one final last quick look to pick up any last mistakes. Done. There's your 60 minutes. And so she's using it as like a help her compartmentalize and decompose the task that she's working on to improve her achievement. Again, not putting out the thinking and saying, hey, write my paper for me. She's saying like, what am I not seeing? What am I not understanding? Make me better, which is a really important distinction. And I called it. She's a good kid. She's not using it to cheat. I knew it. I knew what she was going to do. And then you get to sort of the level 4 assignments. This is another one that I use as an example in a variety of different sessions. But Ethan Mollick, he's made the jump over to Blue Sky now. He's still on X. He writes prolifically about AI in education. He's a business teacher at Wharton. He does the impossible assignment. So it's like, in his context, it's like design a business plan and get feedback from the people. Great business leaders of times gone by, get their feedback, build on that stuff. But we can do that in a classroom as well. So there's a high school version straight out of my Google Classroom. So learn, understand, or engage with a difficult concept you do not feel confident in, or you do a skill you do not currently possess. Track and reflect on your prompts you give the AI you interact with. What is working? What isn't? What is the benefit and risks of doing that? Verify that you have been informed correctly and ensure it is guiding you accurately. So this is an assignment that we can roll out, and then the students present on how they taught themselves through the AI a certain skill. And the way I would put it in the classroom is teach yourself something that you thought was impossible last week. So a skill or an understanding, like start from scratch. And then that also allows us to see their thinking process as they work through the AI to help them then coach, over here, this prompt isn't so great, but like when you asked it this, you're on to something here. Like make it help you a little bit more here through your prompt design. And it's a lot of fun. I think anytime you unleash kids to just do anything like this, you get some wild results, and it's super interesting to see where their brain goes. You'll have any kids going, I'm going to make me a Valorant pro or help me get better at Rainbow Six Siege, all the way up to like, help me break a board through karate, stuff like that, right? Like all kinds of things. This is a Copilot specific one. So again, not outside, the kids are going to prepare for a test. Well, how can they leverage AI for those types of snapshot assessments? So you can provide, as teachers, you can write the prompt and then send that home as homework. They can use their district license for Copilot, and then you can make like a quiz game for them. So this prompt here is, I'm a student preparing for a test on World War II tomorrow. Can you please give me a definition of one of the following terms? So this is the vocab list from the chapter. Out it comes. Please provide me a definition or summary of the terms relevance to World War II and ask me to respond with the correct answer. If I respond correctly, please ask me another. And you can see it just goes back and forth. So this battle was a significant turning point in the Eastern Front in World War II. I answered Stalingrad, correct. If I'm correct, ask me another. And then they get this boom, 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 boom quiz situation where the AI is just bouncing ideas back, and it's like having a study partner right then and there for them to work with on their task at hand. And then they come in and they do an authentic assessment the next day. So that's, again, teaching the kids to understand how and where this tool is going to be useful. It's not thinking for them. It's just accelerating their own thinking process. It also does pictures. So taking a photo of their textbook real time, there's the vocabulary list from my law textbook. Boom. Help me do the same thing. So again, doing a vocab quiz right out of the textbook. And now we should probably move on to teachers because we have about a half hour left, 29 minutes. So let's talk about our prompt design. And if you have any questions about the student section, just drop them in the chat and we'll deal with those as they come up. Let's talk about our prompt design. So Google has released a very helpful sort of model and a course that you can take for free as a teacher that basically comes up with a really clean idea of how to write a good prompt. So I hope you have your prompts handy from the beginning, because that's where we're going to get to with this. But better prompting is not just help me write a lesson for my grade 10 students on vaping. It's going to require some context. The more context you can give these tools, the better place to start. So Parks is the model Google has. We've altered this. So this is, our good friend Darren has modified this just a touch. So we're looking at persona, who you are, grade level, teacher, tech lead. What is your role within the school? What is your relationship to these people? Aim, your objective, your recipient, who is receiving this. And I think the reception audience is really critical for what the output is. So it's like a grade 5 output. Our grade 5 output is going to look a lot different than a grade 12 output. And it's going to tailor that language, and which is really helpful. The theme. So you're kind of setting Google puts it as theme, but Darren has changed it to constraints. That's like the rules of the game. So you're giving it a box to think inside. And if you come to my Notebook LM session later, you'll see how building the box can be really, really helpful, which takes this to the next level. So constraints, how long is your class? Do you need citations? What type of citations do you need? What source material are you working with? What have students learned already? What have they already studied? So I'm preparing to teach comparative cultures, which is anthropology in British Columbia, or your basic like anthropology high school course. And if we watch an episode of Guns, Germs, and Steel before we start our exercise, I'm going to tell it, hey, we watched episode 1 of Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond. We're going to work on some stuff with the Indus Valley. Here's sort of the next layer of stuff. So really building in the context for it. We've got some prompts dropping in. Jill is on fire. And then the structure, boundaries. What is the output? What are some of the other tasks that the students have completed already? You can ask it for examples, depending on the term or the tool that you're using. Copilot, for example, can help. It can export a rubric into Excel for you. So making sure it knows what you're after in terms of response. So persona, aim, recipients, themes / constraints, and structure. So here are some better prompting. And so Jill's got her 2 examples in the chat. which are great. Use the following documents being input. Please prompt for each student. Jill, I think, might be a little bit of a game changer in terms of like she might be ahead of the game here. She might have been playing with this stuff and using some good prompting already, because those are pretty good prompts to start with. I think we can add a little bit more to persona, recipient audience, things like that, to then bring that first prompt she put in, use the following documents being input, please prompt for each article, then wait for OK to proceed. So that's a great starter prompt. And then multiple choice questions. I love this. So if you could define the audience in the start, it might actually help tailor the response a little bit better to your needs. But here's an example with the color highlighting. Just like we're learning how to write a paragraph in middle school or elementary school. So I'm a 7th grade creative writing educator composing a class communication regarding expectations for students over the summer. The message should be about 75 words. So there's our constraints, 75 words, not too long. Encourage students to establish a daily 30-minute writing schedule in preparation for school next year. Write with a professional yet friendly, inclusive tone. The format is an email, which is the structure. And so you're going to get a much better thing than write me an email to tell students to do a 30-minute reading in the summer. There's a geometry example there as well. And you can see it's got all your pieces. So persona, aim, constraints, and then the format. And then add that. So we've got parks, and now we've got shots. So shots are giving the AI some examples about the desired output. So on the screen there, you'll see an example of a 0-shot prompt. I'm a middle school teacher. I need to promote auditions for our winter play for 6th graders, generate eye-catching flyers, no more than 25 words that can be put up around the school. Not bad, but we can get better. So few shot prompting. So we're going to a field trip on the watershed. Help me plan a task for the field trip. Example tasks that we could do. So a watershed selfie, water sampling. You could also say, here are some things that we've already planned to do. What else could we do on that trip? And then that's going to output a much better, much more detailed response based on knowing and understanding more of the context of what you're doing. Again, in this model, you're not really doing the thinking. You're providing all the thinking for it, and then it's just doing the legwork to make your thinking come to life. So combining the parks model with the shots model equals better but not best results. You probably still got to go back and forth a little bit as it outputs and figure out what the exact magic words are to get it to do exactly what you want. And then the best is iteration from this starting place. So we're parks plus shots equal better. Iteration equals best. So we are going to give you a little bit of play time. And Jill's already ahead of the game here. We love it. We would love for you to take a couple minutes to work on that first prompt that you wrote down and then transform your prompt for your own teaching using parks and shots within the next 5 minutes. And then we would love to see in the chat, what is your revised prompt, and let us know, did it really improve the results? So we're going to give you a couple minutes to do that, and then we'll show you some next level examples, which Jill is already on to a next level example of creating a machine to make it do a whole bunch of work for you all at once. So we'll give you a couple minutes, and then I'm going to take a sip of water, and then you can let us know in the chat where we got to.
That is fantastic. I love the practical examples from the students. That's, I think, something that I haven't actually seen yet. And I'm really glad that you brought this perspective.
Thank the lovely, well, I shouldn't name drop her, but thank my lovely favorite student of all time. That's what I mean, though. It's like, that was a changer for me in terms of like, I know this kid's not cheating. I know she's not going to cheat, but she's really clever and she's going to be doing something with this that I haven't thought about. And it's exactly this model of like, she was exporting her processing to this thing to accelerate her own learning. The kids always figure it out faster than we do. Always.
Yep. And I wish when I was going through university, I had something that would summarize my notes for me, because
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. My penmanship is not my strong suit. I wonder if an AI could have even read my history notes in some of my lectures. But
there's a couple that definitely would have given it challenge, where I was, and I know we shouldn't do it, but I did. There were 2 all-nighters that I pulled to get assignments done, and then I tried to read my notes from my classes the day after. It's like hieroglyphs.
yeah, totally.
Not happening. And you could see the little like whoop on the page where I was starting to nod off and then recovered. And every time I did, the pen would go whoop.
Yeah, I mean, like in her example of like collating all her notes, it's like that serves no purpose. Whatever. I guess there's probably some thinking. Yeah, like it's just hours. I remember like having so many upside down books on my desk of like turned open to the page that I'm going to need, and like picking up random books all over the place, and like, oh, to have an AI tool that could have just memorized and held all that for me so I could just pull it back up when I needed it. Ugh. Back in my day. So we'll give you another minute or 2 to work on some prompts, and then we'll move on to some cool examples. I have a few examples that I want to show, but we also have to leave time for us to sort of wrap up as well.
And I will throw this up while we are waiting for everyone to add their thoughts.
I remembered my Blue Sky handle correctly. I just went and checked.
I did check too before I wrote it.
Okay, I think we're going to move on. If you have those prompts and you're still working them a little bit, drop them in the chat and we'll go through them and talk about them. But I think some of our chat looks like they're ready for the next step in terms of their own thinking. Let me show you a few next level sort of prompt constructions. So this is even going beyond that parks and shop model. I think it's like building a system and like taking a whole new approach to how to construct tools in this, where the tool really does become a race car for what we're doing in the classroom. So here's a very simple instruction. It's a sort of a well-crafted, it took me a few tries to word it the right way, prompt, but I'm a high school teacher in British Columbia, teaching World History 12. I am assigning my grade style students an essay, and I need you to create a 7-category rubric that deals with the essential six big history skills in our curriculum. The Big Six is a social studies book that is very, very popular. It is the basis for the British Columbia curriculum. It's the same 6 sort of key skills from kindergarten all the way up to grade 12, essentially. So I'm referencing those explicitly so that the language is going to be what I need it to be. And the 7th category is for grammar and spelling conventions. The rubric should have 5 achievement levels. So I'm giving it the provincial standards of assessment now. So extending, proficient, developing, and emerging. Please ignore the fact that I misspelled emerging in my prompt. Emerging. And no data. It should be written in easily understood but accurate language and not be topic specific, because students will have free choice of any content topic from this course. Please format it like a table. That's key. Format it like a table so I can copy and paste it into my assignment outline. And look at you, Copilot. Look at you. With the Excel button. So that table then goes out to Excel. Boom. Done. And then once it's out in Excel, I can take that rubric, and because I work in a school that is Google Classroom based, I can then import it directly into, I can just paste it into that template that Google Classroom has for rubric importing. And then boom, I've got it into my Google Classroom in a couple simple steps. And I know what it needs to say. I can tweak that a little bit if I need to tweak it. But I know for me personally, it used to take me forever to type up a rubric from start to finish. And I know what it needs to say. It just took a long time for me to say it. What do we have in the chat there? So Sandra, I am a middle school social studies teacher creating a unit on historical inquiry within the framework of historical thinking concepts. Create a lesson plan that engages students Actives, prior knowledge, completes opportunities to practice and consolidate learning, reflecting on the competencies developed while doing the lesson. Ooh. What if you don't have the Excel icon? You should have the Excel icon if you are logged in. Gemini to Sheets is also possible. Sure is. Yes. So again, most of these tools are doing a lot of the same things. So Copilot is the one that I did these examples with, but Gemini will do a lot of this stuff. Sometimes Copilot can be a bit clunky in terms of like, will it give me the Excel icon or will it not? And I find reprompting can often get the Excel icon there, but it's usually when I'm logged in, it will do that. The other time it gets kind of hinky is when it's like, can you generate me like a code file or a script? If not, you can get it to just generate a plain text one and then paste it into a document. Sandra, that is a great prompt. I think it would need to know what is the prior learning that's happened. So like, here are the units we've covered and the skills that we've covered. Now generate a lesson plan that covers these remaining topics. But that's a really good prompt. So here's another sort of systems-based approach to doing this. So so every year we use a staff meeting to mark a fall and spring literacy snapshot in our school for our 7, 8, 9s, and 10s. You'll notice there I've anonymized the data. This is a back and forth iteration prompt where I fed it info I fed it an article, an infographic. I fed it the rubrics that we use to grade those assessments. And every year we take an 1.5 hour staff meeting to mark those assessments for those 4 grades times 20 staff times an 1.5 hours. That's a lot of professional time. I prompted it back and forth, made sure it understood. You can see I highlighted this. Ask me any questions you need to know before you do this to better assist me in the task. So I'm actually asking the AI, hey, what don't you know that you need to know to do this better? And it would say, what is the format? How will I know which students are? It asked me something about like, how do I know when I'm grading a new student? And then I described to it, like every time there's a double line break, it'll be a new student that I'm pasting in. So I've removed student names to protect privacy, yada, yada, yada. So please create a table with the score based out of 4 on the provided rubric, article, infographic. These are grade 8 students, so please adjust accordingly with the age group. So I did it one grade group at a time. And so here's the table at output. And so instead of grading 60 of these things by hand, it output a table with the grades in seconds. And then we still did the in-person mark and are still doing the in-person mark, but I'm field testing this. It's about 95 to 98% accurate with what the staff at my school does with anchored grading. So student 1, 3, student 2 developing, student 3 developing, student 4 developing, student 5 developing. Like, it nails the assessment. And so the dream is, what if we spent that 1.5 hour staff meeting with 20 people planning the next steps instead of doing the grading part? What if we spent our time designing interventions based on the data for this snapshot opportunity? And this is like the next level report card one. It actually doesn't fit on the whole tab. I think one of my text boxes got dragged off there, but this is from a colleague of mine named Kyler. This is how he does report cards now. So this is a complete redefining your workflow as a teacher. So basically Kyler's got this table in Excel or Google Sheets, take your pick. And he's got his list of students. He's got positive comments, 2 improved comments, positive teacher comments, 2 improved teacher comments, extra sort of stuff to include, extra things they're impressed with. And then he's got some sort of prompts here. And then he uses this formula to build his ChatGPT prompt over the course of the semester. So the way that he does it is every Friday, he'll just write some notes down, not about every kid, but like he'll think about the week, take 10 or 15 minutes to just scribble down some things from the week into this spreadsheet. And then at the end of the semester, he just takes this concatenated formula. I think I pronounced that right. and create a positive personalized report card comment for blah, 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 blah. It adds together all the different prompts and information from that student. And you just copy and paste each prompt into GPT, Gemini, Copilot, whatever. And then out comes this extremely detailed, personalized report card comment for every one of his kids. He tweaks it a little bit, and then into the student information system it goes, and he's done. And so for him, he said his report card process has gone from 20, 30, 40 hours down to 3 or 4 hours on a weekend, which is far more manageable. And the actual product that comes out of the report card for the students is really detailed. It's got all these like moment to moment observations built into it because he's doing the process as he goes through the semester and making sure that everything fits the kid. And this is a foundational shift in like, how do you design like a process and a prompt to really bring things to the next level?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool. Hey. And I have iterated on this. That'll be in my notebook session.
Yay. Everybody come to that next.
And then our homie Bailey Amberg's I think her job title is like literacy coach or literacy specialist or something. Works in I want to say Saskatchewan. We might get into the weeds here, but here's a next level prompt. So she wanted to make some stuff about semantic gradients of language for elementary school. And this is another iterated prompt. So she's got this, starts pretty simple, and she's just sort of poking around. Eventually she makes this CSV file of semantic variants. So that's, big to small and all the words in between. So it's learning the gradients of language and all the different types of words. So she goes back and forth. She gets this huge list of semantic gradients. She gets it to output a CSV file. And that's the important part. Then, welcome to Canva. So this video, we do not have time in this workshop to go into all the nitty gritty, but all the instructions are here as well as the final product. So she gets this CSV file. She gets it to run some definitions. She goes into Canva and she builds, it's like a mail merge back from like Excel and Word. So left, right, the CSV file is going to have columns. So the left word, the right word. So that would be like enraged and angry or something. Semantic variants for angry. So the two, enraged would be here and calm would be down here, something like that. The number would be here. And then all the words that appear in between would get anchored into here. Now, there's a tool in Canva called Bulk Create. There's a really little quick instructional video there on how to use it. So you get your CSV file. You go build your cool little template with your word anchors that are the column heads in the CSV file. This is unbelievably next level. So there's her title. So left, right, word 1, word 2, word 3, word 4. So those are the anchors on the top row. Template built in Canva. And then I'll just let me share this tab. And then not this part, though this is all GPT generated as well. The words and the definitions, but this is all generated. But this part, so Canva Bulk Create then pumped out all these worksheet templates for her elementary class instantly with Canva Bulk Create. So a little bit of work, and look how many tools she had. So this is a sorting sheet. So the kids would then sort the variants, learn the definitions, and sort them in terms of where they sit on this scale. And it just keeps going.
Wow.
It just keeps going. And then once she's got that chat built, you've got those forever, and you can generate them on demand. Now, is it thinking for her? Absolutely not. But it is the race car for her process. And I think that is it for me, with a couple minutes left to wrap up. I do have some links in here. This is just an open public Google Word doc of every AI tool that exists, and it's updated all the time because there are a billion tools that are happening right now, and it's hard to keep track of them all. Some GitHub prompt archives from Microsoft, which are really, really handy. It's an archive of tested prompting for a whole bunch of different roles: admin, students, teachers, tech coaches. There's, of course, papers by Ethan Mollick and Donnie Piercy's book, 50 Strategies for Integrating AI. And then back over to Sarah.
All right. So thank you so much, Danny. I have learned so many things, and my brain is just kind of exploding, because what I really needed were those practical examples to really see like how this works in the right way. And I can tell from the discussion that's going on in the chat that a lot of light bulbs are going off. So that was absolutely amazing. I'm just going to remind everyone else again, please do check out the live events at Logix Academy. We've got tons of stuff going on for CS Ed Week, and there's definitely going to be something there that fits you and your classroom. So please remember to check that out at logixacademy.com/live events and find some other amazing stuff that is going to just bring your classroom to the next level. Thank you so much, everyone. I am going to drop the link into the chat for the feedback form. If you can take just a moment to fill that out, that would be absolutely amazing. It does help us out so much to know what works for you, what you'd like to see next, and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to drop that into the chat. Logix feedback. There you go. And I hope that you take the next few minutes to fill that out, and that we see you in one of the other amazing sessions that are going on today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this morning, and we hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care.